Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our online Customer Connect event. My name's Emery, Managing Director at Momentum Software Solutions, and excited to spend a bit of time with you this morning. It's intended to be a very informative session and lots of content to get through, so we'll get started. I'll take you through the agenda. So firstly, just a quick reminder with some webinar etiquette that we'd ask you to do. So please make sure that your microphone is on mute. It just helps us make sure that there's no background noise coming through while we're talking. Feel free to ask questions anytime throughout the session this morning. So you can use the chat box at the top of the screen or the Q&A icon at the top of the screen. We are recording the webinar, so we'll also be sending a link to the recording out to you so that you can share that with other people in your business. So the agenda for this morning is a quick update from me on what we've been doing at Momentum over the last 12 months and what we're planning on doing. Then we have a guest speaker from the executive team at MYOB talking about upcoming enhancements to both MYOB Advanced and Exo, and we've got customers using both products on the session this morning. We have our Service Delivery Manager, Ian Dunne, saying hello to you and also talking to you about what we're doing to improve our service delivery for our customers, so a very important part of the morning. Then we'll get into some live demos. So we're going to demonstrate some key new features, some of which have already been delivered in your recent upgrades and some of which will be delivered shortly in the upcoming major upgrade. And the same for Exo, what new features have been made available over the last few releases, as well as talking about options for Exo customers to migrate to MYOB Advanced. And opportunity for plenty of questions at the end of the session, but as I mentioned, feel free to ask questions throughout if you think they're relevant. So a quick update from me on Momentum. I think it's good for customers to know a bit about the partner they're dealing with. So over the last 12 months, our total number of customers has grown to over 260, so mostly in Queensland, but all around Australia and a few overseas as well. We've improved considerably in our manufacturing and construction expertise and resources, and those are two key industries of interest, particularly for the MYOB Advanced product. We have migrated 7 now of our Exo customers to MYOB Advanced or are in progress as well. So that's something that we're working on streamlining all the time. We've expanded our product offer, so we now do another ERP or a cloud ERP called Microsoft Business Central, and we do it under the Wise banner, which is the localized for Australia version, and also Employment Hero Payroll, which used to be known as KeyPay. We've increased our consulting team, so we now have over 30 full-time consultants, and that's a combination of implementers, support people, and the technical team. We introduced an online learning management platform for MYOB Advanced called the MYOB Advanced Bootcamp, and a number of our customers are using that. It's especially good if you have new employees needing to get a bit of basic training to get started. And we created more of a structure in our business. So we have a full-time service delivery manager, Ian, who you'll meet a little later on, and all of our consulting team are reporting into Ian. We also employed a customer success manager, David, and David's role is to talk to customers, particularly post-go live, around what their future plans are from a growth perspective and also what can be done to accommodate those growth plans through the software that you're using, as well as any associated software opportunities. Our key focus continues to be on our customer experience, so we're always looking at ways that we can improve service to our customers through account management catch-ups by David, myself, and our senior consultants, making sure the upgrade process happens as smoothly as possible, celebrating customer anniversaries, and also sharing knowledge internally to make sure that our consultants have a strong knowledge across all the different software modules. And we celebrated our 15th year in business. A couple of particular highlights. So MYOB have channel partners throughout Australia and New Zealand, and at the end of each year, they award partners in different categories. Last year we won 3 awards, which is the most we've ever won, and the highest award that any partner can win is the Australia New Zealand Channel Partner of the Year, which we were awarded in February this year. So that was a fantastic achievement for Momentum. In addition to that, we were awarded the Construction Partner of the Year, which acknowledges the good work we've done in the construction vertical, as well as the Excellence in Marketing Award. And we were also elevated to Diamond Partner status. So there are several levels of partner that you can be in the MYOB Partner Channel around Australia and New Zealand. Diamond is the highest. And there's a bunch of criteria to be met to achieve that. So total number of customers that you have under support, total number of accredited consultants, salespeople, as well as customer satisfaction levels. So we're now one of only 3 Diamond partners in the channel. And the next 12 months, we're pretty much continuing our continuous improvement journey. So a couple of things we're focusing on is really making sure, particularly for our advanced customers, that the major upgrade process happens as smoothly as possible. There's been a lot of progress towards achieving that, and that's something that we work in parallel with MYOB on. But that's a work in progress. There's more that can be done to make that process more streamlined. We're also concurrently working on a streamlined migration process. So for any EXO customers who are looking to move across to the cloud platform of MYOB Advanced, how can we make that as seamless as possible? Thirdly, with MYOB Advanced, there are so many new features released in the major releases, of which there are 2 a year. Working towards making it easier for customers to firstly be aware of what some of those new features are and also how they can implement them, as well as promoting the awareness of the ecosystem of add-ons that are available, which also enhance the overall experience with the software, both Advanced and EXO, I would say, and continually improve our services and support. So that's a quick update on Momentum for you, and I'm sure you're all very interested to hear from MYOB directly. So we have James Wishart, Senior Product Manager at MYOB, and James will be taking you through an MYOB Advanced update and an EXO update. Thank you, James.
All right, so yeah, hi everyone. Great to be here today. I'm James, Product Manager for MYOB Advanced. And really pleased that Momentum could bring us all together, and great to see Momentum doing so well in the awards. Certainly a partner that we have a lot of trust and faith in, and who do a great job for our customers. So yeah, before I get into the product details, a bit about the updates on the autumn release for MYOB Advanced and some details on EXO as well, I just wanted to talk a little bit about sort of the MYOB's purpose and direction. So our purpose is to help more Australian and New Zealand businesses start, survive, and succeed. And I think that's a great sort of purpose to be able to get behind. But for us to achieve our purpose, we need to really understand how we can help our customers and what our customers need. So if we go to the next slide, we did some research, and what we found is that bad digitization and disconnection are causing major issues for businesses. So 6 in 10 are experiencing bad digitization, and 2 in 3 are calling for better connection of digital tools. But what does this really sort of mean? One of the ways this can come about, and certainly happened a lot over the COVID acceleration of the move to software as a service in cloud, is that businesses go digital, but without a overarching strategy in place. And if that happens, then you have different business units, different people in your business that are reaching out and buying tools and software for their immediate needs without having consideration for what it means for the organization as a whole. So you get multiple different software packages. You get some that are, under spec, some that are over spec. You get duplicate functionality, and they're not natively connected. So then you need to figure out how that you're going to make them talk to each other, or if you're going to make them talk to each other. And you may end up with a lot of manual work, duplicate data entry. It becomes very difficult to automate workflows because they need to move between multiple systems. And it's also hard to have sort of trust in the reliability of your data. You don't have a single source of truth. So you're never quite sure when you're looking at some information in one system, whether it's got the latest updates or whether it's been entered 100% correctly, and you want to constantly sort of check other systems and validate all your data. So a great example, an extreme example of this type of thing happened recently, and some of you may have seen it in the news, but there was a report by the Auditor General for WA who had a look into what happened when the WA government decided to go and procure some COVID rat tests back in the early days of COVID. So they had a fair enough reason. They suspected, or they were concerned, that the federal government wasn't going to be able to procure rat tests, so they decided to go out privately and secure some. So the health department had an initial budget of $3 million. But because of sort of lack of oversight, lack of controls around the process, the fact that the inventory wasn't being stock take regularly and they didn't know how much was on hand, they ended up buying considerably more than they intended to over the period. Their warehouses expanded from 2 warehouses to 10. They had no idea how many tests they had, and it didn't help that the finance department had this idea as well without coordinating with the health department, and also decided to go and try and procure rat tests in the private market. So that original $3 million budget blew out to a whopping $580 million of taxpayer money that was spent on COVID rat tests. And this is for a state that has the most isolated city on the earth, and that effectively walled themselves off from the rest of the planet during COVID, and probably had less cases than most places around the world. And unsurprisingly, the Auditor General said it was the worst case of lack of oversight and lack of control that she'd seen. So that's an extreme example, but certainly that is the type of thing that can happen when you don't have connection across your business. It costs you in terms of productivity, financially, and certainly strategically. So what does MYOB, what can we do about this, and how can we help our customers? So on the next slide, we talk about in this world of digitally enabled businesses where we have this problem of disconnection, we're here to help future-proof our customer success through a SaaS business management platform that connects critical business workflows and provides visibility and control across your entire business. So it gives you that single source of truth, that reliability in your data, and that native connection across your critical workflows. And that solution for us is MYOB Advanced. And on the next slide, we have a look at what it comprises the Advanced platform. So we have 3 core products: MYOB Advanced Business, which is your customizable SaaS ERP software. We have Advanced Payroll, and we have Advanced Workforce Management. And the combination of these 3 natively integrated products means that we can help you look after your customers, manage your supply chain, manage your projects, look after your employees, manage your finances, and deal with your accounting and tax. So that's enough about our platform and our purpose and our direction. Well, we'll go into our direction perhaps a little bit more through the roadmap. Now, this is the 2023 roadmap. It's quite high level, and we're already pretty much halfway through it. Like all good roadmaps, it's already inaccurate since I created it a week or 2 ago, but it still really tells us the key information. So across the top, we've got Advanced Business. Underneath that, we talk about payroll and workforce management. And at the bottom, we've got our industry solutions. So going from left to right and then top to bottom, Advanced Business, we've delivered single sign-on. A lot of people have been waiting for that. That's certainly something that you would expect in a modern SaaS platform, and we're very pleased to roll that out through Microsoft Active Directory. Our autumn release, this is our major release. So we have 2 major releases a year, the autumn release and the spring release. And our autumn release is out, and it's currently we're currently going through the process of upgrading our customers onto that release, and I'll talk about that in more detail in a second. Hoping to release e-invoicing in Q3. So this is just the digital exchange of invoice information between buyers and sellers. It means your invoicing is faster, more accurate, and more reliable. For Q4, we have our second major release, the spring release. And we are also looking at online payments. So with online payments, we'll be able to, you'll be able to send out invoices and have that little pay now button on the invoice to facilitate faster payments from your customers. For payroll and workforce management, employee onboarding, that's a big value add that we've released for payroll, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. In Q2, we have released default compliance configuration. It's just taking away some of the manual steps that you needed to do to remain compliant. Q3, we're looking at some awards management. So we're focusing for Q3 on retail and wholesale awards, as well as hospitality and administration services, and some error management improvements in Q4. In terms of industry, there's a bit going on there. So quality management for manufacturing, that is very soon to come out of early adopter. That is a collaboration with the ISV eTools, and it's a seamless quality management product built inside MYOB Advanced, just part of the system. Great for manufacturing, also for distribution, for checking quality of procured goods. Automated expiry dates. So for batches, manufacturing batches, we can automate the expiry dates on those so you don't have to manually update them anymore. Q2, we've released a configure price quote tool. So this is really around our sort of best practice and industry 4.0 drive for manufacturing, and fills out some gaps in the product configurator. Project trust account compliance for the construction industry. So there's new legislation or tightening of legislation around holding funds for certain projects in trusts and having them contained and separated in a trust. It was going to be mandatory in January this year. That has been pushed back until next year or potentially later. So the urgency on that one's not quite where it was, but it's still coming, and we're the first software company that we're aware of to be able to comply with that, which saves a lot of messing around. Q3, we're looking at releasing product lifecycle management. This is really being able to systemize and optimize your entire product lifecycle from design to dispose and have everything in a single data repository. And in Q4, there's some more enhancements around residential construction and in job costing around the way we manage time, materials, and expenses. So moving into the autumn release, I'm just going to go through some highlights, and then some of these Al's going to show you in a bit more detail with some demos later. Firstly, on finance side, we can now submit GL journal transactions for approval in the system, just like we can submit other things through the workflow processes. Could be a good way of getting some, of delegating some work down to other people in the business and having more sort of security or confidence in your GL journal postings. Dunning letters, that's like arrears letters for debt management. There's some enhancements to those, so you can classify customers and send them different types of letters, and you can review the letters and the fees on those letters and amend them before they go out. Multi-currency is now in contracts and the arrears letters. We've seen multi-currency roll out progressively through a few of the last releases, and it's no different here where it's getting into more and more parts of the system. Projects in construction, we can track project progress by unit now with some new progress worksheets. We have enhancements to change orders and change requests, and we can manage drawing logs and submittals through the mobile app. So that's a bit more efficient. Distribution, we have a stack of side panels and dashboards that are coming out of the box in this release. They're really, really useful. So all through, and it's not just here, but all through distribution sort of workflows, when you're on lists of records or in some of the items, you have access to side panels that pop up and show you related information about different things. And you can interact with that information. You can read it, but you can modify it. You can send emails from it. You can print things. So you can really do a lot of work on the one screen without having to click through multiple screens to get to other parts of the system. New inquiry for inventory turnover, which is a key measure of your inventory efficiency. So you can use that to get a better understanding of how efficient your inventory is and some areas you may be able to improve. And also the ability to copy order header notes and attachments down to other parts of the distribution flow, like shipments and invoices. So anything you've captured in the header notes or in attachments to the sales order, you can pass that through if you choose to shipments and invoices as well. On the next slide, we've got our manufacturing updates. So there's a new engineering workbench. Effectively, it's a better way of managing multi-level bill of materials, and you can see everything in a tree-like structure and create the multi-level BOMs more easily. There's support for blanket sales and transfer orders in MRP. Automated lot batch expiry dates, we already mentioned. Support for base currency, multiple base currency is rolled out through manufacturing now as well. And there are also some side panels, like I just discussed in distribution, also coming up in manufacturing now. Technology, we talked about single sign-on. That's a great release in the autumn release, great feature in the autumn release. And also context-sensitive pop-up info tips, which is really just when you hover your mouse over a field now, you get much better information about what that field is, plus links through to further help on that topic. So great for people who aren't as familiar with the system or are using a new part of the system. In CRM, we've got quote workflow enhancements. So that's around being able to change the business account on opportunities, on active opportunities, and more side panels, so marketing related side panels and marketing information in CRM, and some enhancements around marketing lists, like making things easier to manage multiple members on lists. And I think this is my last slide on the autumn release coming up, is field services. So skills-based scheduling, which is really handy, so you can align the skills required of a particular job to the skills of the employee that you're looking to schedule out on that job. And just a little enhancement is profit margin calculation is now sitting on service orders as well. And finally, from a mobile perspective, we've got enhancements to mobile signature capture and workspace enhancements. So you can edit the home screen, and a huge productivity driver here is you can change the color of the mobile app as well to whatever you'd like to change it to. So a nice feature to finish off on. So let's move on to advanced payroll. Big focus of payroll is always compliance, and that's no different this year. So that takes up a lot of time making sure that we've got a compliant payroll system for all our users. But where we're really focused on payroll is around improving efficiency and performance, because we want to be able to scale payroll for larger customers and make it easier for our smaller customers. There have been, and there probably, to be fair, there still are a few areas where there are manual steps or slow processes that don't have a bigger impact if you're a smaller company. But when you start getting up towards that 800, 900, 1,000 FTE, it starts to take a bit more of a toll. So we've done a lot of work. We've made some really great improvements in automation, and some of those performance areas we've reduced from hours down to minutes. So definitely looking to be able to deliver a really quality product to employees up to 1,000 FTE and beyond that in future. And a big value add that I want to talk about is the advanced employee onboarding. So the reason this is such a big value add partly is because we're not charging for it at all. It's just going to be part of advanced payroll. And it's just a digital onboarding experience for new employees, so they can quickly and easily provide the information through an online form. All that information comes through to your payroll department or your HR department to help with the onboarding, so they've got all the information they need. It takes care of the new super reform rules, so it gives it's a compulsory option, I guess, to choose a new fund or select their existing fund as they sign up, and all that information flows through into payroll, so it's easy to finish off setting up the new employee and get ready for that first pay run. So that's actually early adopter. It was supposed to be released. It's just still in early adopter phase right now, but it's imminently going to be released, and it's a big value add feature that we're really excited about. So that's pretty much a wrap of advanced. All I wanted to do now is talk about, I guess, the direction of advanced at a high level. So these are the areas that are taking the focus at the moment. So the first is usability. We want to make the product more intuitive to use, and something that's happening there is there will be a revamp of the user interface coming out. It's not a completely new user interface that you're going to need to get used to. It's variations on a theme on what's already there, but it's definitely going to be making the system a bit easier to use, easier to tailor to your specific needs. Reporting is a big function, a big focus as well, and key business insights is something that all software providers are trying to make more accessible to customers these days. So we're trying to enhance the report writers and also provide more generic inquiries, but you're also going to see more of those side panels and out-of-the-box dashboards coming with the system as well. Now, the third one, strengthening the workflows. So I explained that a little bit. What we're really talking about there is, we talked about the key workflows earlier of customers, suppliers, employees, etc. Those are the 6 key workflows. The focus for the next period of time is we want to take those features and functions and deepen them, accommodate more use cases, improve them and enhance them, rather than try and start developing radical new features or new product lines and bolting them on. So if you like, we're just taking a bit of a pause in the R&D space for the moment to look at what we've got and make it better, rather than go chasing new features. We'll certainly be getting back onto new features, big new features in the future. But right now, we want to focus more on improving what's there and making it better for the customers we have. And finally, just continuing to focus on integrations, more connectors out of the box, and providing, making it easier and providing stronger integrations to the rest of the ecosystem. So that's the focus for Advanced. I hope you can see that, there's a lot of effort, investment, and thought going into that platform and where we're taking that platform. But now I'm going to move on to Exo Business, the product update there. So the mission for Exo Business is to continue to support our existing customers and provide some value adds for them, and make sure that they're still compliant, whilst also looking at how we can make an easier journey to cloud for those customers. So let's talk a little bit about what's been going on in the Exo Business space. So recently we released a few small enhancements here around extra fields. So there's been enhancements to give you the option to make extra fields mandatory. The extra fields now show up in the basic search, and the access to those fields can be controlled at the roles and user level. So this gives you a lot more options with those extra fields that we know are really useful throughout the system to capture all that extra information and do more with the system. On the next slide, we've also had some other updates recently. We've deprecated paper applications for the Westpac bank feeds. Delivery address was extended to 50 characters and validation put on that field. We've added API endpoints for creditor account details to help with integrations. And we've also added email CC and BCC lines on debtor and job costing invoices. So if we now talk about what we're doing around digital transformation and making things easier for our Exo customers to move to cloud, this is an area that MYOB is really focused on, and we want to invest here and help our customers on their digital transformation journey. And one of the ways we're doing that is with the development of this migration tool. It's in early adopter. It's been in early adopter for a while. It's pretty much ready to be released. And what the tool does is it focuses on the data migration part of the journey from Exo Business to MYOB Advanced, and it enables faster and more cost-effective migrations. What it means is we can more easily extract the data and upload it. And for our customers, it means there's less effort. You don't have to extract the data or help extract the data and send files through to a consultant. So you can focus on the quality of that data and make sure that when it goes into the new system, that you're putting in really good quality data and not inheriting problems that may already exist in your existing system, or taking errors across into the new system. So that's just one way that we're helping our customers around digital transformation. So finally, looking at the direction for Exo Business. So there's a focus on usability and business efficiency. A lot of the ideas that the R&D team does work on come from the ideas portal when it comes to Exo Business. And these are the things that are being worked on at the moment. I'm not sure that all of them will make it into the next release or not, so I can't commit to that right now. But what they're looking at adding on is some more work around extra fields. So looking at adding them to receipt and payment entry, putting them on the bill of material component lines, and also being able to add extra fields to work order lines. And finally, it's not very exciting to finish on passwords, but also enhancing security by limiting password reuse. So those are some of the things coming in the near term for Exo Business. So that's about it from me. Thank you very much for having me. If you've got any questions, actually I haven't checked the chat, maybe put them in the chat, and I'll do my best to get back to you on those. And I hope that's been giving you a bit of an insight into what's been going on and what's coming down the line. I'll pass you back to Al.
Thanks, James. Yeah, certainly appreciate the update from MYOB, and it should be evident from what James has taken you through that considerable amount of new feature delivery and enhancement in MYOB Advanced. more subtle improvements still happening in Exo and remaining compliant, but also a focus on making the transition easier for Exo customers. So I'll go into a bit more detail on all of those things a little later. But next, I'm introducing you to our Service Delivery Manager, Ian Dunne, and he's going to give you an update on what we've been doing internally within Momentum to improve a delivery structure for our customers. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Al. Good morning, everybody. Good to see so many participants on the call today. So yeah, I've been at Momentum now for 9 months and have had a good chance to review the processes and structures. And this slide shows at a high level. I won't go into too much detail about internal processes and structures, but just give you an idea in the direction we've gone, why, and what we hope to improve by doing that. And the improvements are obviously directed at better experience for you guys in the long run. So it's a bit of a before and after snapshot as per the slide. So before any of these changes, and when I came on board after a massive 2022 where Momentum employed 15 new staff, there was 18 advanced consultants, 3 Exo, 3 WISE and Business Central consultants, 3 developers and 2 project managers. And these all reported to me and still have a dotted line in some cases to me, but 30 different reports really led to not just the potential, but some real challenges in coordinating and keeping oversight on the quality of the output, whether it's the implementation teams or the support teams. And just to give you a visual, that's what the reporting lines look like when I started and before we made the changes. So you can see the orange there, the bulk of the reports is the advanced implementation team. So quite a number of people reporting directly to me. In the top right-hand corner, Andrew and James, our project managers, also reported in. The blue team, which is our development team, also reported into myself. And down on the bottom right-hand corner, we've got a yellow team of WISE Business Central implementation and support consultants. And then on the left-hand side is our Exo support consultants. So a vast and wide degree of people reporting into one person, which is a risk for the business and a risk for the quality of the output. So a bit of an after slide moving on. So to optimize this and help with collaboration, especially with the implementation teams where we've got some amazingly experienced senior consultants to help bring on and spread the knowledge that they have. So we reported a team leader for each of the 2 new implementation groups that do the advanced implementations for us. We've also created a dedicated support team and introduced a brand new role of customer services manager, and that's been taken up by Kathy Davis, who I'm sure a number of you guys would have come across in the support world. She's a support evangelist. She loves that work, and she's taken that role on with both hands, which is fantastic. For Kathy, she's got 4 dedicated consultants that align exactly with support. So that's the 3 Exo guys and an advanced consultant as well. And the WISE consulting group, Adam, who you guys for Exo would know very well, is very experienced with Exo and also advanced, and has moved into the WISE channel and is heading up a team of 3 with 2 supporting consultants reporting into Adam. The way we've split up the teams, and just to give you a visual look, that's team 1 of the implementation team, headed up by Nicholas and Glenda, who I'm sure some of the advanced guys would know, and there's a lot of experience in that group. It's slightly larger than the next implementation group. That's because they'll have a bit more capacity to work through. And Christian has taken on the role of team leader in implementation team. Can't say number 1 or 2, just the other implementation team, and also some highly experienced consultants in that group as well. And we got our WISE guys. So Adam's heading that up as before. So Shiraz and Samir working with Adam as the support consultants. And the support ninja is named by Kathy. As you can see, a dedicated support team, which is crucial because it's one thing to have a strong implementation and a configuration of a platform that works well for everybody, but there will always be support, and support is what holds up your day-to-day processes. So to grow this team is vitally important for the continued support and structure of your businesses. And the dev and PM teams. So the dev guys do all the smart integrations and customizations for both platforms. And Andrew and James are the guys that manage the projects, implementations to make sure we get the right outcomes and good implementation experiences for our customers. So the benefits and why we decided to go down dedicated team structure. So the knowledge transfer is one of the key experiences that we've come across with such experienced and capable senior consultants and a fast-growing business. It's really sped up the time it takes for the other consultants to come up to speed and be able to deliver the outcomes for implementations. So the mentoring and peer reviews has increased, and I think so far has shown a really quick increase in the quality of the output of the implementation guys. Peer reviews has always been part of the Momentum process, but now with the teams and the team leaders that are set up, it's now embedded in our process at certain points throughout the implementation process. So that has been really valuable feedback to review each other's work, and it's a known blame system, a bit like the Formula One team where there's no one's to blame, but everyone passes on their knowledge comfortably and their experiences. Yeah, as I said, mentoring's a very important part of it. It's been done with certain consultants in the past, but with a structure like this now, it's quite easy to set up a mentor and a junior implementation consultant, and it's really making the junior consultants or the support consultants far more comfortable and confident in working through the platforms when they're implementing them. Internal training as well has become something that's it's progressed, I would say, more dynamically rather than being forced or asked to be implemented. Just a team culture has developed very quickly within the implementation teams. So a lot of knowledge sharing has gone on, and it's certainly shown with the quick advances in the support consultants' capabilities and support, which is vitally important. So, and a dedicated team has turned out to be one of the fastest and most successful implementations that we've done for the restructure. Kathy taking on that role has really pulled together the support guys and made them feel like they've got a team and support internally. So that's been a great addition. Efficiencies gained. Well, it's enhanced decision making. It's reduced the span of control that I used to have, and it's made informed decisions and good planning and I say capacity planning via the team leaders, and not been left with just to me, which was obviously a weakness and a bottleneck, which flows into the improved resource allocation. So the team leaders and the PMs work very closely together to make sure that the teams and the workloads shared evenly and that the implementations are delivered efficiently. And the accountability, it's very interesting to see that the support consultants are very open and keen to have the team leaders review their work and understand to make sure that they are doing the best implementation process and offering the right solutions to the customers. So the peer oversight and support has really been a huge benefit so far. So I didn't want to delve too deeply into the process and structure, but that just gives you an idea of where we've come from and where we're heading to make the specialised teams really lift the professionalism and the output and the quality, most importantly, of the implementations and the reaction and of the support team to give you guys a quicker response time, faster resolution time, and less downtime. So happy to take questions or just drop them in the chat. But yeah, thanks for your time today, guys. Good to see so many of you on the line.
Thanks, Ian. And we thought we'd take the opportunity as well to introduce you quickly to our consulting team. You can see there on the slide there, it's just a nice opportunity to put a face to the name. So our advanced team, I won't read all the names individually, but you can see we've got a very large team of MYOB Advanced consultants, and they're all involved in the initial implementation, as well as phase 2 or 3 projects, implementing other modules, delivering training, and the tech guys at the bottom are involved in, as Ian said, integrations, complex reporting, customizations of MYOB Advanced, all working together with Ian and David, who you can see in the bottom right-hand corner there. And our Exo team, Michelle, Jen, Greg, supported by Kathy, as well as the tech team who work across both products, Steve, Roderick, and AC. And I'll just get ready to share my screen and get into live demo mode and take you through some of the new features in both MYOB Advanced and Exo. So what we thought we'd do in this session is there's always, people are always interested in what's coming, but sometimes it's easy to miss what you have already got. So we thought we'd do a bit of both. So we're mostly focusing on the what's coming, but there's a few key things that I think it's worth looking at in what you already have. So MYOB Advanced 2022.1, which most customers have been upgraded to, has various new features. And I'll show you some of these because, like I said, you may not realize that you've got them. All right, so just sharing my screen there. And the first thing I would just mention is that if you're not sure what version you're on, right down here in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the build. And so that tells you what version you're on. And if you're not sure what that means or what features are in that version, in the MYOB Advanced Education Center, all the release notes are available there. And each version number is listed. So there are major versions and minor versions, and you can read the detailed release notes of every version, so you can see what features have been made available to you via that version. So I'm going to start with a few CRM features. So CRM is something that we use quite heavily. And perhaps is in some ways underutilized by customers. It doesn't necessarily need to be the domain of the salesperson, but obviously largely it often is. But there's a number of CRM features that just work across the entire suite of the product that you might find useful. So the first one I'm going to tell you about is relations. So relations are a way of creating links between information in MYOB Advanced to different information in MYOB Advanced, which then become cross-referenceable, or you might use them for reporting purposes, etc. So throughout MYOB Advanced, you will see a relations tab in various places. You'll commonly see it in a business account, and a business account could be a customer, a supplier, or a prospective customer, as well as in this example, an opportunity. So in the opportunity, an opportunity from a CRM perspective is a potential sale or a potential new customer, depending how you use your CRM. And most of the information you'd capture in the standard field. So you can manage tasks and emails, issue quotes against that opportunity, look at contact information, so who's the person you're dealing with relating to that opportunity, right down to shipping information, so if this could convert it to a sales order, where are we shipping it to? And custom or user-defined fields through attributes. And then relations might be, well, what else or who else is relevant in this opportunity? So an example might be, this opportunity relates to this customer, Hansen and Yuncken, but somebody from another customer is also involved. So we can basically add a relation from the menu. And recently, there was the introduction of two new types of bi-directional relations. So one is a child with a parent, or a source with a derivative. And the difference between those and the other ones is they're a two-way relationship. So by adding ABC Studios, who is a customer, as a relation, and when you do add a relation, you can add almost any kind of record in MYOB Advanced to that tab. So it can be a transaction, so an invoice, accounts payable or receivable, a business account, a marketing campaign, employee, lead opportunity, pretty much anything. So in this case, I've chosen a customer and I've chosen this customer. And if I drill into that customer, so I'll start with the customer view, which is like the accounts view of a customer. I'm going to switch to the account view, which is like the sales view of a customer. And that shows me the relations tab. And because these are two-way relations, I can see that this customer has actually got relationships with several opportunities. So that might be that there's various use case scenarios you could think of there. You might have customers that have different ownership, but that are related to each other in some way, or customers that are related to suppliers, or contacts at customers who are involved in opportunities or transactions as well. So it just gives you a lot of a bi-directional ability to cross-reference information in your system for your own purpose, and then use that from an inquiry or reporting perspective. The other thing you may not be super familiar with, and this is not new, is marketing campaigns, but they've certainly gradually improved over time. So a marketing campaign allows you to track a certain activity, marketing campaign or event, and particularly track statistics relating to that, so how effective it was or was not. So you can track the people that you've contacted that you've added via a marketing list, how many leads you generated from that campaign, how many opportunities were generated, how many of those opportunities were converted to sales, and what the dollar value is, for example. So I won't go that into detail. The campaigns themselves are not a new feature, and the use of marketing lists is also not new, but they're a very powerful feature that you can use to create curated lists of contact people that you might want to contact. Send them a mass email, for example, about a price or a promotion or whatever activity that you're doing that you want to generate interest from. And then all the leads and opportunities that are generated as a result of that are all matched back to that opportunity. The side panel feature, so that was a segue back to the new feature, which is the side panel. So over on the right-hand side of the screen, side panels can be added throughout MYOB Advanced. And when you click on that, whichever record you've got highlighted, in this case, campaign 47, you'll see a nice summary of the information relating or the effectiveness of that campaign on the right-hand side. So how many new leads, how many opportunities, what's our opportunity conversion rate, one value versus expected, and in-flight opportunities by status. So side panels are a great way of getting access to additional information without having to navigate away to a different screen to see it. The next thing I'll show you is enhancements to project quoting, and that's particularly relevant to construction businesses. So in construction, it's very common that particularly a subcontractor might quote the same project to multiple builders. So there are multiple builders bidding to become the head contractor for that particular project, and they will be asking for quotes from various subcontractors so they can get the best price for that project. Only one of those builders will win the project, and then for the subcontractor, that's the builder or the customer they're going to be dealing with when they do their part. So again, that starts with an opportunity, and an opportunity in the case where you're quoting to multiple businesses, you can leave the business account blank initially. I'll explain why it's populated there. And then in MYOB Advanced, there's a feature called a project quote. So from one opportunity, you can do sales quotes and project quotes. The difference between the two is a sales quote would become a sales order, should it be successful. A project quote would become a project. And in this example, you can see I've got 5 quotes. Some of them are to the same customer with different revisions. So that's another nice feature within MYOB Advanced. Again, pre-existing feature. So you can take a quote. If the customer or prospect asks for a change to it, then rather than edit the original one, you might preserve that from an audit trail perspective, copy it and create a revision, and then send them an updated quote. But we're also quoting to multiple customers within this same opportunity. And you can see over here the business account column and the contact, as well as the quote value, the cost, the estimated margin from a dollar and percent perspective. So whichever one of those is successful, that's the quote. So whichever one is ticked as the primary, that's the business account that will display by default as the header of this opportunity. And that's the quote. I'll just bring that up. That would be converted to a project should Hutchies, in this case, win that project and become the head contractor. The next thing I'm going to touch on is using the Outlook add-in. So the Outlook add-in has been around for a while, but has been enhanced over time. Now, to show you that, I need to show you my live Outlook inbox. So let me just drag that across. So again, it's a feature that's a little bit underutilized, so we thought we would just demonstrate it very quickly again. So the 2 or 3 things it does, if you receive an email from a person that may not be in your MYOB Advanced database, so adding the Outlook add-in adds an MYOB Advanced icon to your Outlook ribbon that you can see up here. So the email that I have highlighted, as soon as I click on that icon, then it's instantly going to search for that person and email address in the MYOB Advanced database. And if it finds it, it will return some matching information and a different list of options here. In this case, because it hasn't found it, it's giving the option to either create a contact or create a lead. So the difference between the two is if, for example, you believe the company already exists as a customer or supplier, for example, then you might just want to add a contact to that customer or supplier. But if neither the person or their company exists at all, then you might create a lead. And a lead allows you to capture the person's information as well as their company information and pop it into the database straight away. And by doing that, you would be able to convert that lead later into a prospect or a customer or a supplier. So very useful feature enabling you to put information into MYOB Advanced without leaving your inbox. The other scenario is where the email is from somebody that already is in the database, and I'll click on another one. So it's recognizing this contact as a person. I can see person's name, email address, position, and account that they're related to. And so I get presented with a different list of options now where I can view and edit the contact or the account, create a new case, create a new opportunity. So they're great for salespeople or customer service people. You can just, so often new sales opportunities or new sales inquiries come from an inbound email. So you can create the opportunity straight away without leaving your inbox and then start working on that opportunity. Or alternatively, if you choose log activity, so log activity really means save a copy of this email directly into the database. And then you have 4 options. So log it against a contact, which I just hit create, or log it against a case that might be in the system. And in that case, I pick the active case that this might relate to. It might just take a second to refresh the list. And you can also link it against an active opportunity or an active project. So very interactive ability to save key emails straight into the database without leaving your Outlook inbox. All right, I'll just skip away from that one and we'll talk about the MYOB Advanced mobile app. So you should all be seeing my screen. Let me just make sure my broadcast is still active. So again, the MYOB Advanced mobile app, somewhat underutilized by customers. You can download it from the App Store. It works on iOS and Android and covers a whole range of features that you could do in the browser, but can then also do when you're out and about and just need your phone. So I'll just log in. Has facial recognition. And a whole range of options that are available to use for any of your employees or people that are users or have a license for MYOB Advanced. So a few quick examples: time and expenses. You can do expense receipts and expense claims, enter time entries, and approve things. For wholesale distribution businesses, there is barcode scanning out of the box. So pick, pack and ship, receive and put away, scan and issue, scan and transfer, item lookup. So basically barcode scanning on a mobile phone runs probably better on a dedicated scanning device. So usually an Android scanner is what we would recommend. And works, as you can see, throughout virtually all the modules. So purchasing, raising a purchase order, doing a purchase receipt, request or requisition. Now, the improvements that have recently been made to the mobile app is to make it more configurable so that different people see certain things in a different order, and it's easy to maintain that. So the first thing is, you can see there are lots of icons to use, and some of you people might only need 2 or 3 or 4 of them, or certainly put them at the top. So a mobile user can actually edit the list. So I could take purchases, for example, and put it second from the top. And then I'll put time and expenses and put it at the top. So that instantly reorganizes the screen for me. You don't need a system administrator doing that for you. It just basically works. Now, what the system administrator can do, and I'll just go back to my browser now. So there's a new screen called the mobile workspace. And the mobile workspace allows whole modules to be made visible or not visible. So that would affect all users. Change the order of any of the modules. So that would be the default order. So any of these modules can be moved up or down. And then features within that module, again, can be made visible or not visible, or put in a different order. So usually the most frequently used items you would want at the top. So let's say I do more expense receipts than I do approvals, and claims next and approvals third, and I don't do events at all. So let's just save that. If I go back to my phone and just refresh that screen. So now you can see that's exactly what's been replicated on my device. So approvals, that's better. Receipts, claims, approvals, and events has dropped off. So just needed to refresh that screen. Okay, so next we're going to start to look at the features in the upcoming release, many of which James has touched on. A couple of minor ones, but important to those who need them. So being able to approve a general ledger transaction or a general ledger journal. We actually get asked it a bit, particularly by our larger customers and customers that are doing, quite large accruals and things like that, wanting to have, firstly an audit trail and secondly an approval. So if you're not familiar with approvals, there is assignment approval maps in MYOB Advanced that work throughout the application. And an approval map can be added for just about any type of transaction. It's quite a long list of things that can be routed through an approval process. And the approvals themselves can be very simple, or they can be more complex, involving multi-step approvers, different validations or rules for the transaction. So in this case, we've created a journal approval map, and we've made it quite simple. General ledger journals always add up to 0 because you have debits and credits. So we've just basically said if the debit amount is more than $500, then it needs approval, and the person who needs to approve it is Michael Andrews. We could have assigned it to a work group so that several people in that work group could approve it, but we just decided to do a simple example. Any approval map can have reasons that would prompt the approver to say, why did I approve it? Or more commonly, why did I reject it? So you might say, if they're rejecting it, they're required to give a reason. And that just simply presents itself in the journal screen as a status. So the document or the transaction is pending approval. If it's pending approval, then as a user, I basically can't do anything with it. I can't release it or print it. I've just got to wait until it is approved, and the approver will appear on the approvals tab. So that's the person who needs to approve it. When it is approved, it'll show who approved it and when. And if it was rejected, the reason, if that's activated, would show there. So all of that's accommodated also by email notifications to the approver and the requester. And that's the same as how any other transaction in MYOB Advanced can be routed for approval. The next thing, which was an improvement, is dunning letters. So dunning letters, bit of an American term. They're basically debt collection reminder notices that you can email to your customers. So when invoices become overdue by a certain number of days, etc., then you can basically produce dunning letters to mostly email it to them, but print is a possibility as well. There were a couple of limitations in prior versions where if you had unapplied or unallocated credits and payments, that they wouldn't appear on the letter. So you might have a difference between the debt collection letter and the statement that you most recently sent them. So it made sense to make sure that those were included. There's also now options to include invoices that are not overdue but are coming due if you want to, as well as make sure that you include open payments and credit memos. So that's been added as the new feature. And it simply means, if we look at an example I prepared earlier, if I'm getting ready to issue a dunning letter and I'm going to email it, so this customer has one we want to send. They have 4 overdue invoices that you can clearly see on the screen there, but they've also got an unapplied payment. So the scenario might be customer has made a part payment without sending a remittance or clarifying which invoice they were part paying. So we've left it unapplied for now, but that will be taken into account if you want it to be in the dunning or payment reminder letter. So a subtle but necessary improvement. We'll move on to distribution. So a couple of really nice enhancements for wholesale distribution businesses dealing with inventory. So the introduction of an inventory turnover report, or in this case, inquiry screen. So stock turn is a very important measure for businesses in wholesale distribution because it's really telling you the efficiency with which you're turning over your stock. So things that turn over at a high rate, you're earning good margin and they're not tying up your cash flow, more importantly. Stock that's turning at a low rate is tying up cash and should be considered as to being able to reduce that and change your replenishment settings. So any of these, the report can be calculated. So it actually runs a calculation, populates the screen, and also saves it in the database. So you can pick any branch in your business, period of time, and you can also filter by warehouse, item class, so inventory category, or even just one inventory ID, or make up an ad hoc list of several inventory IDs. So I've just run for a period of time for all items, and I will filter it. So it's only showing me items that I've sold, so quantity over 0. And then you can see for each item, you've got beginning inventory, dollars and units, ending inventory, dollars and units, the average of both for the time frame we've selected, cost of goods sold, quantity sold, and the turnover ratio in dollars, as well as days sales of inventory on hand. So where you've got very high days sales of inventory, you probably have too much. So very efficient measure of inventory efficiency in your business. The other thing that's been added is some really nice side panels. So we like side panels and customers like side panels because it gives you the ability to access additional information relating to a record or transaction without having to navigate away from the screen. So I've got my sales order screen. You can see over on the right-hand side, we've got various side panels. So whichever one of those I highlight, it's referencing this order and then returning related information. So the sales orders at the top is basically showing me that sales order without me having to even open it. So I can see what products, for example, are on that order. I can collapse that screen so it just shows the products. The other thing you can do is expand that view so that you're seeing the whole view, again, without having to navigate from the search screen, and then shrink that view. The form view allows you to basically see the printed version of that sales order or quote, or whatever it might be, again, without having to drill into it and click the print button. Customer profile, self-evident what that is. So it knows this sales order relates to Euro hair fashion. So by clicking on that, now I'm accessing their customer master file record where I can look at their trading terms, billing information, price class, for example, anything I want to see about that customer record. Sales order details by customer. So this would show me any other sales orders in the system for that customer and what items are on those orders. Right down to receivables. So what unpaid invoices or balances are there for that account. So as I said, the nice thing about a side panel is being able to access related information without navigating away from the screen. The other thing that's been introduced is 3 new dashboards, very much role-based dashboards. So we've got a sales manager. So dashboards are a real strength of MYOB Advanced, and the advantage of a role-based dashboard is depending on that person's role, they can basically go to their profile and add it as their homepage. So any person, if you haven't seen this already, you can do this yourself. Navigate to your profile, scroll down to the homepage screen, and then pick a dashboard or any screen in the system actually, which will become your default. So as soon as you log in, that's exactly where you'll navigate to. So the sales manager dashboard, again, all drillable, and we think, information that a sales manager would like to see. So what opportunities are in the system, in a pipeline style chart, open opportunities, average deal size, year-to-date sales, sales orders by value, all of which is drillable. So wherever we're clicking, you'll then see the matching information from that dashboard, and the dashboard stays open in another tab. So there is a sales manager, purchasing manager. The other thing that's advantageous about having pre-designed role-based dashboards is at least you've got a good starting point. They can easily be changed by ourselves or you, so that it shows information that you consider to be more relevant for your role, but you certainly get a very good starting point with these out-of-the-box role-based dashboards. So purchasing manager, open orders, late orders, orders that have been received, not invoiced, for example, purchase suggestions for inventory, top products. And then there's also a warehouse manager. So warehouse manager, pretty much concerned with getting things in the door and out the door quickly. So this one can be filtered by warehouse, because obviously a warehouse manager is usually looking after one warehouse. And so that would all update depending on which warehouse I choose. So then you're looking at, for example, orders that need to be shipped, late sales orders, fill rate this month. We've got an on-time shipping ratio, so orders that are actually shipped by their due date or promise date. Same on the purchasing side, so purchases need to be received, any late purchase orders that might need to be followed up, right down to average shipments per day and average receipts per day. So some nice dashboards there that are made available from the 2022.do release. So I'll touch on a couple of manufacturing improvements now. So one is the ability to more easily manage a multi-level bill of material. So MYOB Advanced Manufacturing module has always had the capability of having multi-level bill of materials and running them through a production process. But the maintenance of them was a little bit clunky. So that's been improved by the introduction of an engineering workbench. So if I look at a bill of material that I happen to know is a multi-level BOM, so this tells me this is the BOM, this is the finished good that it makes, and we've got routing steps in the BOM and materials that are consumed at each step of those. But a couple of those are sub-assemblies. So each of those would have their own bill of material. What I can now visually see by using the engineering workbench is the full visual bill of material. So BOM 7 drills down. I've got a sub-assembly here, which has its own raw materials going into it with its own operations, and additional sub-assembly. So you can see I'm going multiple levels deep. And this can be maintained by a user who needs to edit the bill of material. So you might need to swap out a material, put something else in, add an allowance for labor, and that can be done for the parent or the master bill of material or any of the sub-assemblies from the engineering workbench. So really nice improvement in manufacturing. There's been various other enhancements to manufacturing, so I'll just touch on one other. So again, the use of side panels. So the good thing about side panels in manufacturing, so your production manager would often be spending a lot of time in this screen, production order maintenance, because that's where you're creating, scheduling, releasing production orders to the floor. But again, there's often related information that you really need to see. So for any production order that you highlight, use of the side panel enables you to actually see that production order, including where it's at, without having to go any further in the screen. Production order details drills into each operation and the materials used, steps and instructions. So that's drilling into the real detail of that production order and bill of material. For businesses that do make to order, then production orders are often linked to sales orders. So easy ability to drill into the sales orders in the system that require production of this material. And again, drill into those items for more information. Drill into the source bill of material for the production order. And production orders can also be related to projects. So there's some project manufacturing capability in MYOB Advanced. This one may not be linked to a project, but we'll see. If it is, then it will show me what project or project task it relates to. So there you go. This one does relate to a project. And it's ticked to track production data. And I can see the link from the production orders tab in the project back to the production order in the maintenance screen. So yeah, again, particularly good example of how useful side panels are to people. And so we'll move on to a few construction improvements now. And construction is a key focus for both Momentum and MYOB as a market we want to service really well. So we'll look at an active project. So projects have always had the ability to handle the concept of a variation. And in MYOB Advanced, a variation is managed through a change order. Can be a change request prior to the change order. And so there's a tab within the project to show what change orders are in the system and also to create new change orders. Historically, the clunky part of a change order is you might issue a variation to your customer, but they might not approve it. And if they didn't, the change order has sort of sat there with an open status. And by doing so, it was affecting the balances tab of the project as well as the cost budget. And it would show as a potential change order amount. And the only way to completely eliminate it was to release it as if it had been approved and then reverse it again, which was, a lot of unnecessary steps. So the subtle improvement that's been added is the ability to cancel a change order. And it's simply a matter of cancelling it if it needs to be cancelled. And that then removes any of the information from the project budget relating to that change order. So a use case scenario might be that you've issued a variation. In this case, we've said the canopy on this boat needs to be refurbished. That variation was rejected. And in fact, the customer wanted to see a variation for replacing the canopy instead. So that was done. So you have your full audit trail of any variations issued, and only the ones that are either open or released will affect the project budget. And they do that in a few different ways. So if a variation is going to affect what you're able to bill, then it will update the revenue budget as a potential change order. When it's released, it will move from there and become the revised budget. And the same thing happens in the cost tab. So you have an original budget, potential change order, and then revised budget is the approved and released change orders. And the balances tab, which is your summary information about the project, has the same thing aggregated. So revenue and costs, original budget, potential change order, revised budget. So a nice enhancement there from a variation perspective, and often variations become important in projects because that's often where there's more margin than the original project itself. You can see again the use of side panels on the projects tab. So they work heavily in the projects module just as well as anywhere else. The next thing I would touch on is progress worksheets. So the concept there is a project is being worked on and people in the field need to record what they've completed of a certain activity. So in the example we've given here, it's a road line marking project. So we're out painting streets, line marking streets, and we're working on different streets, and we've got different, and we're measuring it by the meter. So historically, there wasn't an easy way or a simple screen for somebody in the field to say, well, what have I done today? So the quantity billing worksheet or the progress worksheet allows them simply to create a worksheet, grab the information from the project that they're working on. So what task, it shows them the total budgeted quantity for that task, and all they've really got to enter for that day, which was the 22nd, was what had they completed that day. That was the first day they worked on the task, so there's no previously completed quantity, and the total completed quantity at that point is 120. The following day, they've worked on 2 different streets, so back to street 1 and done another 120 on top of the previous 120 that they'd done, so giving a new total of 240 about halfway through that task, and 135 meters on the second street. So for a project that's billed based on quantity, that information now can be transposed from a billing perspective into the project when the progress claims are done at the end of the month. So there's 2 ways of going about doing a progress worksheet. So one is the screen I've just shown you, but they've also been added into the daily field report. So a daily field report, common concept in particularly construction, but various other projects as well. So there's a whole range of tabs pre-existing on the daily field report. Time, so people's time that they've worked on, any change requests or change orders issued that day, subcontractors who were on site, project issues, the weather, and the progress worksheet tab is the new tab. So a site supervisor, leading hand, project admin can do the progress worksheet from within the daily field report screen without having to go off into the progress worksheets screen if they don't want to. So again, they can just select some budget lines, update the quantity, and it creates the progress worksheets for that day. And lastly, project trust compliance. So I'm not able to demonstrate that, but this legislation introduced in Queensland only so far requires mostly head contractors to open a trust account for every project where all monies received and paid to subcontractors pass through that trust account. That trust account requires the ability to be reconciled and audited, and there's quite stringent notification and communication requirements relating to that as well. And in addition to that, retentions now need to be held in a trust account. Now, that legislation is being rolled out progressively in Queensland, and it affects larger projects that are delivered initially to state government and health organisations, but it's progressively expanding to include normal commercial projects. There was also a dollar amount threshold on size of project, but that's also reducing. So more and more construction businesses in Queensland will have to comply with this legislation. We're aware of a couple of our customers that already do. So these features will be available in MYOB Advanced pretty shortly. And that way, different screens will be added to projects. For example, a project will have some additional tabs to show what the trust accounts are for that project. And that will mean automatically any transaction on that project, whether it's a progress claim to the customer or entering of an AP bill, which is a claim from your subcontractor, more importantly, or equally importantly, would go through that trust account. All right, so I'm just going to go through some Exo features now. So for our Exo customers, we want to make sure that you weren't left out of the picture. So Exo still is enhanced regularly. There are 3 or 4 upgrades a year. They tend to be somewhat subtle. You wouldn't be expecting whole new modules and major enhancements to be happening, but there are a lot of subtle improvements. So I thought I'd go through a few of those from the most recent upgrade backwards. And I'll start with the enhancement to extra fields. So extra fields, very commonly used feature in MYOB Exo, and it just enables you to create user-defined fields throughout most of the major tables in the system, not all, but most. And the subtle enhancements that have happened more recently is that for a few key tables, debtor accounts, creditor accounts, and stock, I believe. All right, wrong table. Debtor accounts. Let's say, what's the branch? So an extra field can now be made mandatory, and a pre-formatted message can be added so that if the user doesn't complete it, you can tell them what field it is that's mandatory and what they need to do. So that is very useful because there is limited functionality in Exo to make fields mandatory. So now you can make an extra field mandatory. The other thing that you can do in addition to that is determine which users can see it and can edit it. So that gives you the ability to create a hidden extra field, for example, that only certain users based on their menu can see, and whether it's read-only or not for them, and whether it's mandatory for them. So a use case scenario might be that there's a field on a customer account which is somewhat confidential. So this gives you the ability to create that field, have a financial control administrator see it and update it, maybe an accounts person see it but not update it, and then nobody else see it at all. So quite a nice enhancement. The other is that prior to this release, you weren't able to add extra fields to a bill of material. So a bill of material now has the ability to have the same number and type of extra fields as any of the other screens. I know we've had a number of customers wanting the ability to add extra fields to bill of materials. That can now be done from 2023.1 version. And also a bit of improved logging. So there is now a new tab in the Utilities tab of the configuration module showing the login history. So who's logged in to the database, what their staff number is, what their name is, what IP address they came in from when they logged in and logged out. A couple of other things. So custom SQL filters now have some hints within them. So a custom SQL filter is commonly used in things like, say, batch printing an invoice, where instead of batch printing all the invoices for a particular date or a particular account or account group, you might have additional criteria. And as soon as you click in here, you get a bit of a hint as to what the tables are called when you're using a custom filter. So previously you used to need to know or remember what those things are. So this is basically saying that the debtor accounts table is referred to as A and the debtor transactions table is referred to as T, which might mean I can go T dot or amount, for example. So that will return everything over $1,000. A couple of other very useful ones. So in the previous version was the addition of a couple of fields to the Details To tab of a debtor account. We commonly get requests from customers that when they email their invoice, can they send it to multiple people on the same email? And previously the answer was kind of. You had to sort of combine the email addresses separated by a semicolon in the email field, but that only worked. That didn't work in every case, and it certainly didn't work if the email addresses were very long. So there is now a invoice email CC and an invoice email BCC field. Now you can just type an email address straight into that, or if the customer that you're highlighted has multiple contacts, then you can pick one of those contacts as long as they've got an email address. Or as well as you can BCC internal staff people in your company. So you might have a scenario where when emails are sent to customers, you want to send a copy to the sales rep, for example. So you can actually choose somebody from within your business as well as somebody from within their business. Right, so they'll appear there. And when you next run invoice batch printing, you'll then see those CC and BCC email addresses in your mail shot screen. Another particularly nice little enhancement was the expansion of the use of stock search templates. So I'll first explain what they are. So a stock search template allows you to create predefined searches that the system will do in the stock screen when you access it from a transaction. So for example, it can say, bring up the last 100 items sold to this account, or only show me available stock, or show me the top 10 items for this account. And so those are saved as stock templates, and they work already in a sales order screen, a sales quote, and I think a purchase order. They've now recently been added to the job screen and also the opportunity screen. So if I'm in my CRM module and I'm working on an opportunity, in the quote screen, when we search, we can now choose one of those templates. I haven't actually added them to the CRM, so you can choose which modules they're available in, but they'll appear here. So it just means that your salesperson or estimator in particular who's doing sales quotes, either in the CRM module or the job module, will be able to use those same templates that are available in the other modules. There's also been some subtle enhancements to things like just the length of fields. So delivery addresses now much longer. Sometimes people would run out of space filling out a delivery address. So each one of these lines now holds 50 characters. I'll touch on another one. So one thing that is available within Exo that not everybody wants available to everybody is in the data transaction screen. When you right click on a transaction, you get various options. So you can view, print, edit, duplicate, generate a credit. Some of those things you may not want all of your people doing. So there is now a profile setting which allows you to select which of these are available for different users or different roles. And finally, Exo alerts for new accounts and transactions. So Exo alerts, probably more accurately defined as business rules. So a business alert can be created against most transactions in the system and even some master file activity. So creating or updating a debtor or a creditor or a contact, saving a sales order, purchase order, and they enable you to apply rules. And more recently, you can have the system check and fire that alert only if the transaction is a new transaction or only if that debtor is a new debtor. So that gives you the ability to say, if it's new, make sure certain fields have been completed. And alerts in Exo can be silent, which means the user isn't aware of it, but a message is being sent to somebody else, for example, or it's logged in the database. It can be a warning, which means the user will be presented with a message. And there could also be an email or a message sent to somebody else. And blocking means they can't save the record that they're working on. And last one, which would relate to larger customers, so payment time reporting. So that feature in itself is not new, but payment time reporting is required to be done by businesses with a turnover of more than 100 million. And it's where, yes, so if you're required to report under payment time reporting scheme, requires to businesses or groups of businesses with a turnover over $100 million and who are trading, and their suppliers might be small businesses. So in those cases, once that feature is turned on, A creditor would be ticked as a small business from a payment time reporting scheme. Small business under this scheme defined as turnover less than 10 million. And that means when you're entering a transaction, the system is actually recording not just the invoice date and the due date, but also when that transaction was received. So the payment time reporting is designed to track the time it takes for a business to pay one of their suppliers from the time they received the transaction to the time it was due. So every transaction has an invoice date, a due date, as well as an invoice receive date. The invoice receive date can be subsequently edited, for example, if it was entered incorrectly, because you might receive a transaction several days after the invoice date, for example. Okay, so I'll just stop sharing my screen there. So before we finish, for Exo customers that are on the session, there's obviously questions about migration. And to implement MYOB Advanced, moving from Exo, it's still quite a considerable project, and we're working on a lot of things to improve it. So one is there's training, because you would be learning a whole new system. Now there's self-paced learning available, and that's a good way to get started and reduce the training cost, as well as enable people to do training on their own time. The data conversion, James from MYOB mentioned earlier, where MYOB are developing and are about to release some conversion tools, but we already have conversion tools ourselves. So we can script data straight out of Exo, every Exo module, and then either bring it straight into MYOB Advanced, or more commonly into a pre-formatted template, allowing you to spend a bit of time cleaning it up, because your data probably still needs some work, whether it's customers, suppliers, stock items, contacts, and you may not want all of it. For example, you may only want customers that you've traded with in the last year or two, and the same with suppliers and items that you only have stock of and or have sold in the last year or two. A few other considerations. So transactional history is not usually transferred because the system's design and database are very different. The GL history is, so you'll be able to do comparative reporting from a profit and loss balance sheet point of view. But what's often easier from a transactional history perspective is to implement a reporting or a BI tool that can report concurrently on both your Exo and Advanced database, and there's several of those that are available. And then we'd still need to do an assessment of anything that's been customized for you in Exo, and that's quite common, and whether those customizations are replaced by standard features in MYOB Advanced, or whether Advanced might need to be also customized the same way. And similarly with forms or reports, so forms being things like quotes, invoices, statements, purchase orders, to what extent they've been designed and customized in Exo, and make sure that if you want them the same in Advanced, you can have them the same, or you might take the opportunity to redesign them. Same with dashboards. So Exo has dashboards, Advanced has dashboards. They're not necessarily the same. So that's all part of the discussion when you're ready to talk with us about potentially migrating. Next slide, thanks, Morgan. All right, so I'll just pause there. I think I've gone a little over time, but hopefully that gave you a good preview of improvements in both the solutions, one of which you'll be using, either Advanced or Exo. So open the floor to any questions to myself or to James from MYOB or to Ian or any of the Momentum team. Okay, looks like no questions. So appreciate people staying with us for, we went a little over time, but hopefully you found it useful information, and we really enjoy presenting these sessions for you, and look forward to the next one. You will be sent a recording of today's session as well.